Welcome back, guys. Learning objectives are at the very core of the instructional design process, and rightly so. Now, without them, how would we know what content and activities to include in our courses? Unfortunately, more often than not, the learning objectives are poorly defined, making it hard to determine whether they have been met. So let's look at Bloom's taxonomy. Now, this classification system was specifically designed to help instructors and instructional designers clearly define learning objectives and, in turn, create courses that meet learners' needs. Now, let's take a closer look at how instructional design principle applies in the real world. Now, what exactly is Bloom's taxonomy? Now, in their original work, Bloom and a committee of educators identified three domains of learning: cognitive, which is mental; affective, which is emotional; and psychomotor, which is physical. However, when most people think of Bloom's taxonomy, they think only of the cognitive domain. The cognitive domain is divided into six categories, each representing a cognitive skill level. Each category is associated with a set of verbs or cognitive processes that describe what learners should be capable of doing. Now, knowledge. So you can actually use verbs like recognize, recall, list, name, memorize, define, locate, and identify. Comprehension, right? You can look at words like interpret, illustrate, summarize, explain, match, paraphrase. When it comes to application, use action verbs like apply, choose, organize, draw, generalize. When it comes to analysis, use words like analyze, differentiate, classify, categorize, and distinguish. Synthesis, create, plan, produce, and construct. And evaluation, evaluate, judge, criticize, compare, and appraise. Now, this is theory, and I quickly wanted to uh, help you guys understanding by looking at a couple of examples. Now, as I stated earlier, I use Google Keep to make notes. So here you go. So we're actually practicing creating learning objectives over here. So we know that they are, divided into six categories. And let's take the example of the first one. So this is something which I have used to describe uh, what exactly you guys will go through in this course. So you will gain clarity on what learning and development is and the different roles available. So this is one of the learning objective of this course. Now, given the fact that we are actually using the taxonomy, let's actually try to use different action verbs here. So in knowledge, you have recognize. So if you were to create a learning objective and change this particular wording, you can actually say recognize what learning and development is and the different roles available. So if you look at it, it's pretty short. It is pretty direct as well. Now let's look at another word. We can use the word identify, right? So you can have the objective as identify what learning and development is and the different roles available. That's another way of putting it. We can also use the word summarize in comprehension. If you have a look at it, you can use the word summarize. So you can also say summarize what learning and development is and the different roles available. So very simply, you can make it elegant and to the point. And the verbs are pretty beautiful in terms of making the entire sentence action oriented as such. So let's look at another example. Now, one of the other course objective was you will understand the significant role played by a learning partner in impacting business, right? So let's say we actually use in comprehension. Let's use the word illustrate and summarize together. So you can change the learning objective to illustrate the significant role played by a learning partner in impacting business, right? Or you can say summarize the significant role played by a learning partner in impacting business, right? And let me just try another one for you guys. The learning objective was you will gain insights on the skills and competencies required to become a learning partner, right? So under application, you can use the word apply. Yeah, so you can change this as apply the skills and competencies required to become a learning partner. So whenever you create a learning objective as such, it has to be a verb actually describing what exactly the outcome of the particular course is. So it's not learning something, but after learning something, what exactly you can apply. So I still remember, just want to share with you, while I was working with Wells Fargo, my boss actually called me up one day because I actually sent him a list of objectives for a new course that I was creating. And he took literally 10 minutes to explain the same thing in terms of how to write a clear learning objective, which is outcome oriented, which is action oriented, right? So that actually helped me understand the taxonomy better. I hope this helps. What maybe as an exercise you can do uh, is have a look at the other objectives. Like I just wrote a couple of them. You will understand the strategic role of a learning partner. Try to use the taxonomy and make it better, or you will get clarity on L&D partners by key result areas which cover all aspects of L&D functions, from setting aspirations to measuring impact. Try to use the different action verbs and make this better. Uh, in the Q&A section as such, you can actually share with me what your learning objectives for these two will be, right? So getting back to the six categories as such, let's so I think I have not shown you this, but let me just quickly share my screen again with you guys for the Google Keep, so that right, this will be clear. So this is what I've actually wanted to show you. These are the six categories and the words, and what I just tried to show you is to change these particular objectives and use those words like recognize, identify, summarize over here, illustrate, summarize, and apply in the next one. What I would urge you to do is look at these two objectives and try to make this better using the taxonomy, guys. So let's move forward. Let me quickly share my screen again. All right. So once you know the cognitive skill level that learners are expected to achieve and specific knowledge or skills the course covers, you're ready to write your learning objective. Now, simply combine the subject, the learner, the verb, what learners must know how to do, and the object, the knowledge they need to acquire. So I've given you some examples. Another example is, at the end of this course, learners will recognize the 5 cognitive skill levels in Bloom's taxonomy. That can be one objective. Now, how do we use Bloom's taxonomy to design activities? Now, as you are designing your course activities, it's important to refer back to the learning objectives and let the expected cognitive skill level guide your choices. That's very important. If your learners need to take the course content and apply it to their job, you could build a scenario that allows them to practice doing that. If they simply need to recognize a list of terms, multiple choice questions could be just the thing. So let's look at the 6 cognitive skill levels again, and maybe this time with an example of a suitable learning activity. So we looked at knowledge. For knowledge, you can look at a multiple response question asking learners to identify the correct answer from a list of terms, right? So quiz can be one example where after the section is done, you can actually get 3 or 4 questions, give them multiple choice answers and ask them to select. That's one way. When it comes to comprehension, a free response question asking learners to explain their understanding of something. So let's say you've completed a particular concept, you gave them some examples. Now you want to test whether they're able to understand it properly or not. So uh, you can actually pose a question. What is your understanding of this particular concept? And listen to them to judge whether they have really understood the concept or not. When it comes to application, you can actually create a scenario in which learners need to make decisions based on the information they learn. So you can actually have a case study, right? You're done with a particular session. You have 20 more minutes, and you prepared with a couple of case studies. Make them into groups, give them the case study, and ask them in these scenarios which decisions you will actually make, and basis that you can quantify whether the understanding is there for the group as such. It comes to analysis. You can have a matching question where learners classify terms or concepts into the appropriate category. It comes to synthesis, again, a free response question where learners are asked to outline a plan of action. And when it comes to evaluation, a scenario where learners are asked to compare and contrast options available as such. So as you can see, certain activity types can be used for more than one skill level. It all depends on how you design those activities. And this is only the beginning. There are many more activities that you can design to help your learners achieve each of these cognitive skill levels, guys. So pretty important to actually understand the Bloom's taxonomy, whether be it to create learning objectives or actually to design activities. The taxonomy is of much use. I've used a lot of Bloom's taxonomy in whatever courses I've created, both at the HSBC and Wells Fargo, guys. So I think moving forward, what we'll look at in the next sections are, until now, if you really had a look at it, we've done with 4 models. We actually look at Bloom's taxonomy. So there are 5 models. We looked at the KRAs of an instructional designer. We try to understand the skills and competencies required to be an ID person as such. In the next section, what I plan is to put the theory of ID to work. So right from crafting the learning objectives to the habits of effective instructional designers, we look at strategies to motivate your learners. We look at how to promote transfer of new skills to the job, try to create more scenarios and stuff like that in the next section, guys. So until then, I would like to see the answers to the learning objectives, guys. Just try and message me in the Q&A. I will definitely look at it and correct you guys. Thank you so much.